The UES Perseverance glided through the star-speckled void, its hull gleaming under the light of unfamiliar constellations. On the bridge, Captain Maya Chen watched the massive orbital structure of Harmony Station grow larger on the viewscreen. After centuries of solitude in the cosmos, humanity was about to join the galactic community. Final approach, Captain, Lieutenant Rice announced, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. Harmony Control has assigned us Docking Bay 17. Maya nodded, her posture perfect despite the 12-hour shift. Born and raised in Earth's full gravity, her body was a testament to human resilience. Compact muscle, dense bones, and a cardiovascular system evolved under constant pressure. Take us in, Lieutenant. Nice and easy. Let's make a good first impression. The ship's engines purred as Reyes executed a series of precise maneuvers, guiding the Perseverance into the assigned bay with a grace that belied the vessel's size. Through the viewports, Maya could see alien figures in the observation galleries, their varied forms hinting at evolutionary paths vastly different from Earth's. Docking complete, Captain, Reyes reported with evident pride. Harmony Control sends compliments on our approach. Apparently, we've set a new efficiency record for first contact vessels. Commander Darius Wade, the security chief, raised an eyebrow. They sound surprised. I'd be too, Dr. Elias Okafor said as he joined them on the bridge, tablet in hand. According to the preliminary data they sent, most Concord species evolved on worlds with significantly lower gravity than Earth, typically between 0.3 and 0.7 g. What's routine precision for us might be exceptional for them. Maya considered this as she straightened her dress uniform. Interesting. Let's keep that in mind, but not make assumptions. We're here as diplomats first. 6 hours later, the human delegation stood in Harmony's Grand Concourse, a vast chamber with a soaring crystalline dome that offered a breathtaking view of the surrounding nebula. The station's 0.4 g environment made Maya feel unusually light, almost buoyant, though she maintained her composure. Around them, representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations mingled in an astonishing display of biodiversity. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others moved with sinuous grace that would be impossible in Earth's heavier pull. The Archon of the Helivax Confederation, a tall being with iridescent skin and elongated limbs, approached the human group. Captain Chen, welcome to Harmony. We are most pleased that humanity has accepted our invitation to join the Galactic Concord. Maya inclined her head respectfully. Archon Laval, the honor is ours. Earth has long hoped to find peaceful companions among the stars. Your species has progressed remarkably quickly, Laval observed. From your first primitive space flights to interstellar travel in less than 3 centuries. Most remarkable, given your world's challenging conditions. Before Maya could respond, a high-pitched whine cut through the ambient noise of the gathering. She glanced up instinctively and saw it, a massive section of the dome's support structure tearing free, the metal groaning as it gave way. A 3-ton ceiling panel, easily 15 meters across, was plummeting toward the assembled dignitaries directly below. The aliens scattered in panic, their movements seeming almost slow motion to Maya's Earth-trained reflexes. Without hesitation, she sprinted forward, muscles bunching powerfully despite the unaccustomed lightness. Beside her, Commander Wade matched her stride for stride. They positioned themselves beneath the falling mass, bracing as it struck. The impact drove Maya to one knee, but she held, muscles straining against a weight that would have pulverized most Concord species. Wade grunted beside her, his face contorted with effort, but holding firm. 3 other human officers rushed to assist, and together they supported the massive panel. Structural support teams, emergency in the Grand Concourse. Someone was shouting into a communication device, but Maya barely registered it. Her focus narrowed to the burning in her muscles, the weight bearing down, and the absolute necessity of not yielding. When the emergency crews finally arrived with gravity manipulators to secure the fallen section, Maya stepped back, rolling her shoulders to ease the strain. Only then did she notice the profound silence that had fallen across the grand concourse. Hundreds of alien eyes were fixed on the human delegation, with expressions ranging from awe to unmistakable fear. Archon Leval approached slowly, his normally fluid movements hesitant. "By the void," he whispered, just loudly enough for Maya to hear. "They're like creatures from myth. What kind of death world forged them?" Maya met his gaze steadily, suddenly aware that humanity's first impression on the galactic stage would not be defined by their words or their technology, but by the simple, startling fact of what their bodies could endure. "Just Earth," she answered with a slight smile. "Just home." Word of the gravity giants spread through Harmony Station, faster than official diplomatic channels could contain it. 3 days after the incident in the Grand Concourse, Maya found herself summoned to the Concord Council's private chamber, a circular room where representatives of the 7 founding species sat on elevated platforms. "Captain Chen," began Counselor Ziv of the Phylaxian Ascendancy, his slender frame seeming almost fragile despite the ceremonial armor adorning his torso. "Your species has made quite an impression. We came to build bridges, not to intimidate," Maya responded carefully. "Of course," Ziv continued, mandibles clicking softly. "Yet questions arise about humanity's capabilities. Surely you understand our caution. New species with unexpected advantages have caused difficulties in the past." Maya recognized the implicit test. "Counselor, Earth stands ready to demonstrate our peaceful intentions in any reasonable manner." A subtle vibration passed through Ziv's exoskeleton, the Phylaxian equivalent of a smile. "Excellent. The Phylaxian Ascendancy invites you to participate in our ancient rite of ascension. A cultural exchange, if you will." Dr. Okafor, standing behind Maya, shifted uncomfortably. He had briefed her on the rite, a brutal obstacle course designed to push even the most elite Phylaxian warriors to their physiological limits. What Ziv proposed was no cultural exchange, but a calculated challenge. "I would be honored," Maya said without hesitation. The following morning, Maya stood at the entrance to the Rice course, a sprawling complex that wound through Harmony's lower levels. A crowd had gathered, not just Phylaxians, but representatives from dozens of Concord species. "The record for completion stands at 12 hours, 14 minutes, announced Ziv. "Many do not finish at all." Maya nodded, stretching muscles that felt oddly light in the station's reduced gravity. She wore a simple training uniform bearing Earth's insignia. The course began with a punishing climb up a near-vertical shaft with minimal handholds. In Earth's gravity, it would have been challenging. In Harmony's 0.4 g, Maya ascended with startling speed, her powerful legs propelling her upward in controlled bounds. The Phylaxian observers muttered as she cleared the first obstacle in 1/10 the expected time. What followed was a gauntlet designed to test every physical attribute: strength, endurance, agility, and pain tolerance. Maya pushed through underwater tunnels with crushing pressure gradients, navigated razor-sharp crystal mazes, and crossed molten metal pits on narrow beams. 4 hours in, she noticed the handholds on a climbing wall had been subtly altered from the approved course design. Sabotage, though she couldn't prove it. She adapted and continued. By the midpoint, Maya's uniform was torn and sweat-drenched. She had suffered lacerations, bruises, and a minor burn, yet she pushed forward with unwavering determination. The obstacles grew increasingly difficult, but Earth's merciless gravity had prepared her for far worse her entire life. When Maya emerged from the final challenge, a chamber gradually filled with paralyzing gas that competitors had to escape before succumbing. The chronometer showed just under 3 hours. She had completed the rite in less than a quarter of the previous record time. Ziv approached, his expression unreadable to human eyes. "Remarkable, Captain Chen." "Thank you for the opportunity, Counselor," Maya replied diplomatically, though her body trembled with fatigue. "You understand, of course, that some will see this as confirmation of their concerns." Before Maya could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency teams rushed past, heading toward the diplomatic quarter. An explosion. Someone shouted. Multiple casualties. Maya and Dr. Okafor immediately followed the response team. They arrived at a scene of chaos, a reception area destroyed, debris everywhere, and injured beings from various species being treated by medical personnel. Structural failure, they're saying, a Thraxian engineer told them, but the pattern of damage suggests deliberate sabotage. In the medical bay, the injured lay on beds calibrated to their specific physiologies. Maya noticed a Scythian ambassador whose blue skin had turned ashen gray. Her biochemistry is collapsing. A medical officer explained, "We need compatible plasma to stabilize her, but none of the station's reserves match." Dr. Okafor ran quick calculations on his tablet. Human and Scythian hemoglobin have similar oxygen-binding properties, he said. "Captain, your blood type might work." Without hesitation, Maya extended her arm. "Do it." Hours later, Maya sat beside the recovering Scythian. The ambassador's eyes, multifaceted like an insect's, focused on Maya with unmistakable emotion. "You saved me," she said, her translator rendering the clicks and hums into English. "My species does not forget such debts." "No debt is owed for basic decency," Maya replied. The Scythian lifted a delicate appendage. "I am Matriarch Scylla, first voice of the Scythian collective. My people stand with humanity from this day forward." As Maya left the medical bay, she found Ziv waiting in the corridor. "An interesting day, Captain," he said. "You pass our warrior trial with unprecedented ease, then save a high counselor with your very blood. Some will call it suspiciously convenient. And you, counselor." Ziv's antennae twitched. "I begin to think humanity might be precisely what the Concord needs, though not all will agree." He leaned closer. "Be careful, Captain. You've made powerful friends today, and equally powerful enemies." Maya watched him go, suddenly aware that the true trial was only beginning. Earth's gravity had forged her body into something remarkable by galactic standards, but the coming challenges would test more than mere physical strength. The Mesdorian science vessel, Enlightened Inquiry, limped into Harmony's emergency dock, its hull breached in multiple places and life support systems barely functional. Maya stood with Dr. Okafor and Commander Wade in the observation room as emergency teams cut through the sealed bridge doors. "Life signs?" Maya asked. "Just one," the Thraxian medical officer replied, "fading rapidly." When the doors finally gave way, the teams found a single Mesdorian slumped in the captain's chair, purple blood seeping from multiple wounds. The being's 4 eyes focused briefly as the rescuers approached. "The heavy ones come," it gasped through bubbling fluid. "They cannot be stopped." With those words, the last survivor of the Enlightened Inquiry shuddered once and went still. "Heavy ones," Wade repeated, looking to Dr. Okafor. Before Elias could respond, Archon Leval appeared beside them. "Captain Chen, your presence is requested by the Emergency Council." Immediately. The council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 27 Concord species gathered in urgent assembly. Maya noted the fear evident in their postures and vocalizations. The Enlightened Inquiry was conducting routine stellar surveys in the Novaris sector. High Counselor Tuven of the Mesdorian Communion explained, her holographic projection flickering slightly. It was one of 15 research vessels that have gone silent in the past standard month. "We recovered this from the ship's visual logs," Ziv added, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The recording showed the Enlightened Inquiry's observation deck. A massive warship had appeared seemingly from nowhere, its angular hull covered in spiked protrusions. Boarding parties swarmed across the gap between vessels, massive arthropod-like beings with armored exoskeletons and multiple limbs, moving with terrifying speed despite their bulk. The footage showed the Mesdorian crew fighting desperately, their weapons barely slowing the invaders. One of the attackers seized a Mesdorian scientist with chidnous appendages and simply tore the being in half. "Voidborn," Matriarch Scylla whispered, her translator barely capturing the dread in her voice. "You've encountered them before," Maya stated rather than asked. The council members exchanged glances. Finally, Archon Leval spoke. The Voidborn emerged from uncharted space 50 standard years ago. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply take. The Concord has faced aggressive species before. Councillor Fall of the Hegemony interjected. We attempted standard containment protocols, but the Voidborn. He trailed off. Their physiology makes them nearly unstoppable, Tegan continued. They evolved on a massive world with approximately 1.8 times standard gravity. Their strength, resilience, and speed exceed anything in known space. Maya studied the frozen image of a Voidborn warrior. You've been fighting a war all this time. We have been losing a war, Ziv corrected. The Voidborn have claimed 17 formerly Concord systems. Our forces are overwhelmed wherever we engage them directly. And you didn't think to mention this during our diplomatic negotiations. Commander Wade asked, anger evident in his voice. Archon Level's skin flushed a deeper blue. Would you have eagerly joined an alliance facing such a threat? We hoped. We needed time to assess humanity's potential value. Maya suddenly understood. The rite of ascension. The cultural exchanges. You weren't testing our trustworthiness. You were evaluating our combat potential. The timing of this attack is unfortunate, Councillor Fall said, but it forces our hand. The Noveris sector must be abandoned. All Concord citizens will be evacuated immediately. Abandoned, Maya echoed. There are Mesdorian colonies in that sector. Novaris III houses our largest research facility, Tven confirmed, but the evacuation order was issued 3 cycles ago. Those who could leave have already done so. And those who couldn't, Dr. Okafor pressed. Tven's hologram flickered as she turned away. Regrettable casualties of war. Maya stepped into the center of the chamber. How many? When no one answered, she repeated the question louder. How many people are you abandoning? Approximately 2,000 researchers and support staff, Ziv finally answered, plus their families. Perhaps 6,000 souls in total. A murmur ran through the gathered representatives. Maya looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, ocular clusters, and sensory organs of each council member in turn. You invited us to join your Concord because you hoped we might help you survive, she said, her voice carrying throughout the chamber. Now we offer that help, and you choose retreat. You've seen the recordings, Councillor Fell protested. The Voidborn are unstoppable. Nothing is unstoppable, Maya countered. Every species, every being has vulnerabilities. You've been fighting this war for 50 years without finding theirs. Perhaps it's time for a fresh perspective. She gestured to the frozen image of the Voidborn warrior. They're strong. So are we. They evolved under crushing gravity. So did we. Not as extreme, perhaps, but enough that we might stand a chance where others couldn't. You propose to engage the Voidborn directly, Archon Leval asked, his voice a mixture of hope and disbelief. I propose a rescue mission to Novaris II, Maya clarified. The Perseverance will attempt to evacuate as many survivors as possible. Suicide, Councillor Full declared. Perhaps, Maya acknowledged, but we won't know until we try. And I, for one, am not willing to abandon 6,000 people without making the attempt. She turned to leave, but paused at the chamber entrance. The Perseverance departs in 6 hours. Any Concord citizens who wish to volunteer are welcome aboard. Maya's speech, broadcast throughout the station as was standard protocol for council sessions, sparked immediate reaction. By the time she reached the Perseverance's docking bay, a crowd had gathered, not just humans from her crew, but representatives from 7 different Concord species. A tall Phylaxian warrior stepped forward, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the bay lights. Captain Chen, I am Tarek Zan, Shield Master of the 5th Dominion. My life is yours to command in this endeavor. Beside him stood a Xifian engineer, a trio of Helidax navigators, a Mesdorian science team, and others Maya didn't immediately recognize. "We cannot offer official sanction," Tarek continued, "but we can offer our skills, our knowledge of voidborn tactics, and our willingness to stand with humanity." Maya nodded, emotion tightening her throat. "Welcome aboard, all of you. We depart for Novaris II in 6 hours. It will be dangerous. I cannot guarantee your safety." "If safety were our concern," the Scythian engineer replied, mandibles clicking in their version of grim humor, "we would be on the evacuation transports, not here." As the volunteers boarded, Commander Wade approached Maya. "You realize the Council might be right. This could be a one-way trip." Maya watched as her human crew worked seamlessly alongside their new alien comrades, preparing the Perseverance for departure. "Maybe, but we'll give those colonists a fighting chance, and the Concorde something they've been missing in this war." "What's that?" Wade asked. Maya's expression hardened as she turned toward the bridge. "Hope." The Perseverance dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Novaris system, its sensors immediately scanning for voidborn vessels. Thermal signatures indicate heavy activity around Novaris II, Lieutenant Reyes reported. At least 3 voidborn destroyers in orbit and multiple dropships on the surface. Maya studied the tactical display. Life signs on the planet. Glavak, the spindly Thraxian physicist who had volunteered for the mission, manipulated the sensor controls with his 6-fingered hands. "Difficult to be certain, Captain. The Mesdorian bunkers are shielded against standard scans. However, I am detecting power fluctuations consistent with failing life support systems in the subterranean research complex." "Any sign they've detected us?" Commander Wade asked. "Not yet," Rise answered. "We're holding position in the shadow of the outer gas giant's magnetosphere. It's masking our signature for now." Maya turned to Hiroshi Tanaka, the Perseverance's chief engineer. For the past 3 days of their journey, he had been working around the clock with the alien volunteers to modify their equipment. "Tell me we have something, Hiroshi." Tanaka nodded, fatigue evident in his eyes. "We've adapted our hardware based on what we know of voidborn physiology. Armor plating reinforced to withstand their strength, weapons recalibrated for better penetration of their exoskeletons." He hesitated. "It's untested, Captain. In theory, it should give us an edge. But theory will have to do," Maya said firmly. "What about the extraction plan?" Tarek-san, the Phylaxian shield master, stepped forward, his tall frame towering over most of the human crew. "The main research facility has 3 emergency access tunnels designed for evacuation," he explained, bringing up a schematic. 2 are likely compromised, but the tertiary access through the geothermal plant may still be viable. "So we go in through the back door," Wade summarized. "While the Voidborn are focused on the main complex," Tarek confirmed. "A small team might reach the survivors undetected." Maya surveyed the gathered officers, human and alien alike. "I'll lead the ground team." "Commander Wade, Tanaka, you're with me." "Tarek, we'll need your knowledge of voidborn tactics." "Dr. Okafor, you'll coordinate from the ship with Glavak." She looked to the Helidax navigators. "Can you get us close enough for a covered drop without detection?" The lead Helidax, her iridescent skin rippling with concentration, inclined her head. "The approach will be unconventional, Captain. But yes, unconventional proved an understatement. The Perseverance skimmed the upper atmosphere of the gas giant at dangerous speed, using its gravitational pull to slingshot toward Novaris II. The maneuver stressed the ship's structural integrity to its limits, but allowed them to approach from beneath the orbital plane where voidborn sensors were weakest. As the ground team prepared in the shuttle bay, Maya established a new baseline for the mission. She gathered the strike force in the ship's variable gravity training room, which Dr. Okafor had reconfigured to match Novaris II's 1.2 G environment. "We've spent the journey preparing in Earth normal and higher gravity," she told them. "The Voidborn are adapted to even heavier conditions. On their homeworld, they're unstoppable, but here, they're powerful, but not invincible." She initiated a series of combat drills, pushing everyone to their limits while Darius Wade refined their tactics. The aliens, struggling under the increased gravity, watched in amazement as the humans maintained combat effectiveness, even as the simulation increased to 1.5 G. "Remember," Maya said as they completed the final drill, "our objective is rescue, not confrontation. We avoid engagement whenever possible." The insertion went smoothly, almost too smoothly. The assault shuttle, modified with Thraxian stealth technology, slipped past the Voidborn patrols and landed in a narrow canyon 5 kilometers from the geothermal plant. As the team disembarked, Maya felt the familiar pull of increased gravity, not overwhelming to her Earth-trained muscles, but a constant reminder of the danger they faced. They moved through the rugged terrain cautiously, Tarek taking point with Wade covering their six. The landscape bore evidence of the Voidborn attack, twisted metal debris, scorched earth, and occasionally, the remains of Mesdorian defenders. They're methodical, Tarek observed quietly as they paused to scan for patrols. They secure a perimeter, then work inward layer by layer. No survivors left behind them. Why? Maya asked. Simple brutality, or something else? Unknown. They take resources, technology, sometimes prisoners, but their ultimate objective remains a mystery. The geothermal plant loomed ahead, a massive structure built into the side of an active volcano. Surprisingly, it appeared intact, though abandoned. No guards, Wade noted suspiciously. They've either missed it or it's a trap, Tanaka finished. Maya checked the scanner. Life signs. Nothing definitive, Tanaka replied. Too much interference from the thermal vents. We proceed as planned, Maya decided, but stay alert. The team infiltrated the facility through a maintenance hatch. Inside, emergency lighting cast red shadows across empty corridors. They moved deeper, following Tarek's map toward the access tunnel that would lead to the main research complex. Captain, Tanaka whispered urgently, holding up his scanner. I'm detecting unusual energy readings ahead, similar to what we saw from the Mesdorian ship's logs before it was destroyed. Maya signaled a halt. Voidborn technology. I think so, but it's not a weapon signature. I don't know what it is. They rounded a corner and froze. The corridor ahead had been transformed. Strange crystalline growths covered the walls, pulsing with faint bioluminescence. The air shimmered with an invisible force that distorted light. Gravity manipulation technology. Glovak's voice came through their comms. The readings matched theoretical models I've been developing. They're artificially increasing the local gravitational field. To what end? Maya asked. Unknown, but proceed with extreme caution, Dr. Okafor advised. If they can manipulate gravity, they may be able to. The warning came too late. A section of wall suddenly shifted, revealing what they had mistaken for more crystalline growth to be a perfectly camouflaged Voidborn sentry. The massive being unfolded from its hiding place, chitinous limbs extending as it rose to its full 3-meter height. Before anyone could react, the air around them suddenly grew heavy. Maya felt her body strain against what felt like at least 2 G of pressure, manageable for her, but potentially debilitating for some of their non-human companions. Fall back, she shouted, raising her weapon as the Voidborn charge. Tarek stepped forward, his ceremonial staff extending into a combat pike. Go, Captain. I will hold it here. Maya wanted to protest, but there was no time. The scanner was now showing dozens of life signs converging on their position from throughout the facility. What they had stumbled upon was clearly far more important to the Voidborn than they had anticipated. All teams, this is Chen, she barked into her comm. The geothermal plant is compromised. We need an alternate route to the research complex now. As they retreated, the sounds of Tarek's battle with the Voidborn sentry echoed through the corridors. Maya swore under her breath. Their mission had just gotten exponentially more complicated, and they hadn't even reached the survivors yet. What had begun as a rescue operation was rapidly evolving into something far more significant. Whatever the Voidborn were building in the geothermal plant, it clearly involved gravity manipulation technology, perhaps the key to their devastating effectiveness, and possibly, Maya realized with grim determination, the key to defeating them. "Tarek, fall back now," Maya shouted into her comm as they retreated through the winding maintenance corridors of the geothermal plant. "That's an order." No response came except the sounds of combat, growing fainter as they put distance between themselves and the Voidborn sentry. "I found an alternative route." Gulvak's voice crackled through their comms. "There's a secondary cooling system that connects to the main research complex. Sending coordinates now." Maya checked the updated map on her tactical display. "It'll take us right under their main force." "Which makes it the last place they'll look for us," Wade pointed out. The team moved swiftly through the facility's lower levels, encountering no further resistance. Maya's thoughts kept returning to Tarek, but she forced herself to focus on the mission. The cooling system proved to be a narrow tunnel barely large enough for humans to crawl through. "Scans indicate the research complex is still sealed," Tanaka reported as they emerged into a maintenance bay. "Life support is failing, but holding." "Life signs?" Maya asked. "Several hundred, concentrated in the central bunker. But there's something else." Tanaka adjusted his scanner. "There's an unusual energy signature similar to what we detected in the geothermal plant." They proceeded cautiously through the deserted corridors of the research facility. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows, and the increased gravity of Novaris Ia seemed to grow heavier with each step, though Maya knew it was just fatigue setting in. They reached the sealed doors of the central bunker without incident. Tanaka worked quickly to bypass the security protocols while Wade and Maya stood guard. "Almost there," Tanaka muttered. "The Misdorians have excellent encryption, but..." The doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing dozens of weapons pointed directly at them. Misdorian security personnel stood in defensive formation, their purple-scaled faces showing a mixture of fear and determination. "We're from the Concord," Maya announced, keeping her hands visible. "UES Perseverance. We're here to evacuate survivors." A tall Misdorian stepped forward, lowering her weapon slightly. "Captain Shival, Facility Security. The Concord ordered evacuation weeks ago, then went silent. Why should we believe you now?" "Because we're here," Maya replied simply, "and we have a ship in orbit ready to extract as many as we can carry." Shival studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "We have 342 researchers still alive, plus support staff and families. Over 1,000 souls total." Maya winced inwardly. The Perseverance could manage half that number at most. "We'll need to make multiple trips. How long can your life support hold?" "Less than 16 hours, Shival answered grimly. "And that's assuming the Voidborn don't break through our final defenses." The security captain led them deeper into the bunker, where Misdorian civilians huddled in overcrowded quarters. Children with 4 large eyes stared at the humans with obvious curiosity, despite their dire situation. "What are they after?" Maya asked. "The Voidborn." "Why this facility specifically?" Shival exchanged glances with another Misdorian, this one wearing the insignia of a senior researcher. Dr. Kalax should explain. The scientist led them to a sealed laboratory at the center of the complex. Inside was a sight that made even the battle-hardened Wade step back in surprise. A Voidborn warrior lay on an examination table, restrained but clearly alive, its chitinous limbs occasionally testing the bonds that held it. "We captured it during their initial assault," Dr. Kalax explained. "The only living specimen in Concord possession." He gestured to a device on an adjacent table. "But it's not the only thing they want back." The device was unlike anything Maya had seen. A silvery spherical object approximately half a meter in diameter, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift as she looked at them. "We recovered it from a derelict Voidborn scout ship 3 months ago," Kalax continued. "It's a gravity manipulation device of extraordinary sophistication. We've barely begun to understand its principles, but its potential applications are revolutionary. It could win the war, Shival added bluntly, or lose it, if the Voidborn reclaim it. Maya studied the device. Can it be transported? Yes, but Kalax began, only to be interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the complex. Perimeter breach. A Mesdorian security officer shouted. Multiple points of entry. Shival barked orders to her security team while Maya activated her comm. Perseverance. This is Chen. We need immediate extraction. Over 1,000 civilians plus crucial intelligence assets. Working on it, Captain, Dr. Okafor's voice replied. But the Voidborn destroyers have changed orbit. Our original extraction plan is compromised. Then we need a new plan, fast, Maya said, mind racing. Tanaka, what about the gravity device? Could we use it? The engineer approached the sphere cautiously. Possibly, but without understanding how it functions. No time for caution. Wade interrupted. Hostiles are 5 minutes from breaching this level. Making a split-second decision, Maya ordered. Prep the device for transport. We're taking it and the prisoner. Shival, get your people ready to move. We'll need to fight our way to the surface evacuation point. As they organized the evacuation, a massive impact shook the entire complex. Through the surveillance system, Maya saw a nightmarish sight, a Voidborn warrior twice the size of the others, its exoskeleton adorned with trophies from fallen enemies. The render, Shival whispered. Their elite hunter. It leads their most important assaults. Maya met Wade's gaze. Looks like we found something they really want back. The journey to the evacuation point became a desperate running battle through maintenance tunnels. The Mesdorian civilians struggled in the colony's higher gravity, while Maya's team formed a defensive perimeter, using modified weapons that could penetrate Voidborn armor. When the render finally cornered them at a pressure door separating them from their extraction point, Maya and Wade stood their ground while the others escaped. The massive Voidborn commander, expecting easy victory, found itself matched against two humans whose evolutionary heritage had prepared them for this moment. As the battle reached its peak, Tanaka activated the gravity device, creating a localized field of 3G. The crushing pressure drove everyone to their knees, except Maya, who'd spent hours in the Perseverance's high-G training chamber. With a final burst of strength, she dragged Wade through the pressure door and sealed it behind them, leaving the render temporarily incapacitated. Now we run, she gasped, her muscles burning with fatigue as they rejoined the evacuation group. The Perseverance broke orbit with a desperate burst of its main engines, 6 Voidborn destroyers in pursuit. In the ship's crowded medical bay, Maya stood beside the examination table where Dr. Okafor was treating Wade's injuries. How bad? She asked. 3 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, torn ligaments, Okafor reported. But he'll live. Human resilience continues to impress. Maya nodded, then turned to Tanaka. Status on our passengers. We evacuated 412 Mesdorians before we had to break orbit, the engineer reported. The rest are still in the bunker. Life support will fail in 9 hours. Maya pressed her palm against the cold bulkhead as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. And our pursuers. Lieutenant Rey's voice came over the intercom. 6 Voidborn vessels, gaining quickly. Our modifications give us an edge in maneuverability, but their raw power. He left the implication hanging. Captain, Gulvac interrupted, hurrying into the medical bay. The gravity device is exhibiting unusual energy fluctuations. It appears to be reacting to the captured Voidborn's presence. Maya followed the Thraxian physicist to the secure laboratory, where they had placed both the device and their prisoner. The Voidborn warrior remained motionless in its reinforced containment chamber, but its compound eyes tracked Maya's every movement. It's been watching me, Dr. Kalax said, his 4 arms working different scanning equipment simultaneously. I believe it's trying to communicate. Can it speak? Maya asked. Unknown. Void-born vocal structures are unlike anything we've encountered, but it seems to understand us. Maya approached the containment field. The Voidborn was massive even by their standards, nearly 3 meters tall with an armored exoskeleton that glistened with metallic highlights. It extended a limb toward her, pressing against the energy barrier. "It recognizes you from the surface engagement," Calax observed. "There's intelligence there, perhaps even respect." Before Maya could respond, the ship lurched violently. "Bridge to Captain Chen," Reyes called urgently. "We've reached the asteroid field at the system's edge, but the Voidborn are still gaining. We can't outrun them." Maya studied the captured warrior for a moment longer, then made her decision. "Prepare for an experimental maneuver. All hands, brace for high G acceleration." In the navigation center, Maya outlined her desperate plan. They would use the asteroid field to their advantage. Human reflexes and reaction time would allow them to navigate paths too complex for their pursuers. "And the gravity device?" Glavak asked nervously. "If you can make it work, we'll use it to create localized gravity wells among the asteroids. Turn the field itself into a weapon." "Theoretically possible," the physicist admitted, "but highly dangerous. The gravitational shearing forces could tear the Perseverance apart." "Better than certain death at Voidborn hands," Maya replied. "Make it happen." What followed was a desperate game of cat and mouse through the dense asteroid field. The Perseverance's human pilots executed maneuvers that pushed the ship's structural integrity to its limits. Meanwhile, Glavak and Tanaka worked frantically to integrate the alien gravity device into the ship's systems. "Ready on your mark, Captain," Tanaka reported from engineering. "But we'll only get one shot before the power systems burn out." "Understood. On my command." Maya watched the tactical display as the lead Voidborn destroyer closed to optimal range. Now, the gravity device activated, creating a cascading series of gravitational distortions throughout the asteroid field. Massive space rocks suddenly changed course, crashing into one another and creating a deadly ballet of destruction. 3 Voidborn ships were crushed instantly. 2 more took critical damage. "The last destroyer is still on our tail," Reyes reported. "And it's the biggest one. The Render's flagship." Maya nodded grimly. "Maximum thrust. Get us to the jump point." The Perseverance shot out of the asteroid field, engines straining beyond safety limits. But the surviving Voidborn ship matched their speed effortlessly, closing the distance with every passing minute. "Jump in 60 seconds, Reyes announced. "If we can hold them off." "Captain," Dr. Okafor's voice cut in, "you need to get down here. The prisoner, it's doing something to the gravity device." Maya rushed to the laboratory to find an extraordinary sight. The containment field had been deactivated, but the Voidborn wasn't attacking. Instead, it stood with multiple limbs extended toward the gravity sphere, which now pulsed with intense energy. "It's recalibrating the device," Calax explained in awe. "The patterns it's creating, they're a form of mathematical language." "Translation," Maya demanded. "Not yet, but..." The Mesdorian scientist fell silent as the device projected a holographic display showing the Render's flagship preparing to fire its main weapon. The Voidborn warrior made a series of clicking sounds, then pointed urgently at the ship's rear quadrant. "A weakness," Maya realized. "It's showing us where to hit them." She relayed the coordinates to the weapons room, where 2 Phylaxian gunners, who had arrived with emergency supplies from Harmony after hearing of the mission, acknowledged the order. "Target locked," they reported. "Firing." The Perseverance's main cannon fired a concentrated burst at the precise location the Voidborn had indicated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, secondary explosions cascaded across the enemy vessel's hull. "Direct hit to their propulsion system," Reyes confirmed. "They're falling behind. Jump point in 10 seconds." As the Perseverance prepared to jump, Maya returned to the laboratory. The Voidborn warrior had collapsed, apparently exhausted by its interaction with the gravity device. "Why?" she asked simply. Why help us? The creature's mandibles moved slowly, forming sounds that strained the translator's capabilities. What emerged was fragmented but clear enough. Not all want war, some want balance. Before Maya could question it further, the ship lurched into FTL jump, leaving the crippled Voidborn destroyer and any hope of rescuing the remaining Misdorians behind. 3 days later, the Perseverance limped back to Harmony Station, its hull scared but intact. The reception that awaited them was a mixture of jubilation and suspicion. Maya had saved hundreds of lives and returned with unprecedented intelligence assets, but rumors spread quickly. Rumors of humans communicating with the enemy, of Maya's unnatural strength, of a captured gravity weapon that could change the course of the war. In the council chamber, the debate raged for hours. Some counselors hailed the humans as heroes. Others demanded the gravity device be surrendered immediately for safekeeping. Through it all, Maya stood silent, her mind on the Misdorians left behind and the strange words of the captured Voidborn. When finally given the floor, she spoke plainly. The Voidborn can be fought. Their physical advantages can be countered. But more importantly, not all of them want this war. There may be a path to negotiation we haven't explored. Negotiation, Counselor Fall scoffed, with monsters who've slaughtered millions. With a species, Maya corrected firmly, that evolved under different stars, but faces the same challenge as all of us: survival. As the political storm intensified around her, Maya knew the real battle was just beginning. The gravity device offered both hope and danger, a weapon that could turn the tide, but also a means to understand an enemy that was perhaps not as monolithic as they had believed. "This is madness," Counselor Full declared, his gelatinous form quivering with agitation. "You propose to take our most valuable technological asset directly into enemy territory." 6 weeks had passed since the Perseverance's return from Novaris II. In that time, Dr. Okafor and Galactic had led a multi-species research team in studying both the gravity device and their Voidborn prisoner, whom the crew had taken to calling Scholar for its apparent intelligence and willingness to communicate. "Not enemy territory," Maya corrected. "Contested space where we might establish contact with Voidborn factions interested in dialogue." The council chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. Maya stood at the center, flanked by Matriarch Scylla of the Tsiphian Collective, and surprisingly, Ziv of the Phylaxian Ascendancy, both now her staunch allies. "The intelligence provided by Scholar has been verified," Ziv stated, mandibles clicking in the precise rhythm that indicated formal testimony. "The Voidborn are not a monolithic entity. There are at least 3 major factions, with the Render leading the most aggressive expansion. And we should trust this," Scholar Fall countered. "For all we know, it's feeding us disinformation to lure our forces into a trap." Maya activated a holographic display showing the improved gravity manipulation system that Tanaka and Galactic had developed. "We're not proposing a military strike, but a targeted diplomatic mission. 3 ships, utilizing our enhanced gravity technology to penetrate Voidborn territory undetected. The goal," Matriarch Scylla continued, "is to reach Terminus, the Voidborn homeworld, and attempt direct communication with the Alpha Progenitor, their highest authority, and, according to Scholar, the leader of a faction that favors coexistence rather than conquest." The council deliberated for hours before finally reaching a compromise. The mission would proceed, but with strict limitations. 3 ships would be outfitted with the new gravity systems: the Perseverance, led by Maya; the Phylaxian Dreadnought Indomitable, commanded by Tariq Zan, who had survived his encounter with the Voidborn Sentry and become a vocal advocate for human-Phylaxian cooperation; and the Tsiphian stealth vessel Whispered Shadow. Preparation for what was unofficially dubbed Operation Sunfall consumed the next month. The modified ships underwent rigorous testing, while Maya and selected crew members spent hours each day in enhanced gravity chambers, pushing their endurance beyond normal human limits. Scholar assisted willingly, providing crucial information about voidborne defenses and communication protocols. On the eve of their departure, Dr. Okafor found Maya in the observation deck, staring at the distant stars that marked the direction of voidborne space. "Second thoughts?" he asked quietly. Maya's expression remained resolute. "No, but I keep thinking about what Scholar told us about Terminus, a world with nearly twice Earth's gravity, where resources are so scarce that expansion became their only path to survival. Not unlike Earth's own colonial history," Elias observed. "Exactly. We recognize the pattern because we've lived it." She turned to face him. "That's why it has to be us, Elias. We understand both sides of this equation in a way no other Concord species can." The journey to Terminus took 17 days of careful navigation through increasingly dangerous territory. They witnessed the true extent of the Voidborn Empire. Massive engineering projects harnessing the energy of dying stars, planets being systematically stripped of resources, and most disturbingly, worlds being transformed to higher gravity environments through artificial means. Their terraforming, Tanaka realized as they observed a gas giant being compressed by massive gravity generators, or rather, void forming, creating habitable worlds that match their physiological needs. A species adapting its environment rather than adapting to it, Dr. Okafor noted. Fascinating from an evolutionary perspective, but devastating for any existing ecosystems. When they finally reached Terminus, they found it surrounded by a defensive fleet too large to bypass conventionally. Maya called a strategy session with the commanders of all three vessels. "We need a diversion," she explained, outlining what she called Operation Sunfall. They would use their gravity technology to temporarily increase the apparent mass of nearby asteroids, creating a cascade of orbital perturbations that would draw attention away from a specific vector of approach. "The whispered shadow can slip through during the chaos," she continued. "A small team will make planetfall and attempt to reach the central hive complex where the alpha progenitor resides." "And the Perseverance and Indomitable?" Tarek asked. "Will maintain position at the edge of the system, ready to extract the landing team or provide a distraction if necessary." The unspoken implication hung heavily in the air. If the mission failed, the two larger ships would likely need to sacrifice themselves to ensure the whispered shadow's escape with whatever intelligence they had gathered. The plan was set in motion with precision timing. The gravity devices performed beyond expectations, creating gravitational waves that sent asteroids and smaller moons careening into new orbits. As predicted, the Voidborn fleet scrambled to address these inexplicable astronomical anomalies, creating a narrow window for the whispered shadow to slip through. Maya led the landing team personally, along with Dr. Okafor, Tanaka, and Scholar, who would serve as both guide and translator. The crushing gravity of Terminus -1.93 g, according to their instruments, made every movement a struggle despite their exoskeletons and months of training. The air was thick and oxygen-rich, a necessity for supporting life under such pressure, but it made their speech labored and movements sluggish. Scholar led them through winding canyons of crystalline formations, avoiding voidborne patrols with uncanny precision. Not far now, it clicked in its approximation of human speech. Alpha chamber ahead. As they crested a ridge, they saw the central hive complex, a massive structure that seemed to grow organically from the planet's surface, its spires reaching hundreds of meters into the violet sky. But between them and their destination stood a final obstacle, a full legion of voidborn warriors led by a familiar, imposing figure. "The render," Maya breathed, recognizing the distinctive trophy-adorned exoskeleton of the commander they had encountered on Novaris II. Scholar's compound eyes fixed on the warrior leader. "Knew we would come." Terminus, always watching. As the landing team prepared for what would likely be their final stand, a sudden impact shook the ground beneath their feet. Above, visible even through Terminus's dense atmosphere, flashes of weapons fire illuminated the sky. The fleet, Tanaka realized, checking his communicator. "They've been discovered." Maya watched helplessly as the Indomitable engaged the Render's flagship in orbit, absorbing devastating hits that should have destroyed it instantly. Instead, the Phylaxian dreadnought held position, its gravity shield straining but intact. "They're buying us time," she realized. "We need to move. Now." With the Render's attention split between the space battle and the incursion on the surface, Maya led her team in a desperate sprint toward the Hive complex. Every step under the crushing gravity drained their strength, but they pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that this might be the only chance to end a war that had claimed millions of lives. As they reached the outer perimeter of the complex, Tarek Zan's voice came through their comms, breaking through the interference. "Perseverance," whispered Shadow. "This is indomitable. We who evolved under gentle stars die, so that those born under harsher light might find peace." The transmission cut off as the Phylaxian ship positioned itself directly in the path of the flagship's main weapon. The resulting explosion temporarily blinded every sensor in the system, creating the diversion they needed to slip inside the Hive undetected. But Maya carried the weight of Tarek's sacrifice as heavily as Terminus's gravity as they ventured deeper into the heart of the Voidborn Empire. The central chamber of the Voidborn Hive Citadel towered above them, its ceiling lost in shadows hundreds of meters overhead. The air here was even denser, carrying complex pheromones that Scholar had warned would disorient non-Voidborn. Maya's modified exosuit filtered most contaminants, but the crushing gravity of Terminus strained every joint and servo. Each step required deliberate effort, even for her Earth-trained muscles. "We're being watched," Dr. Okafor whispered, nodding toward recessed alcoves where Voidborn observers tracked their progress with compound eyes that reflected the bioluminescent light. "Not hostile," Scholar clicked softly. "Curious. Humans. Unexpected." The chamber narrowed into a spiraling path that wound upward around a central pillar of crystalline material similar to the gravity device. As they ascended, Maya noticed the gravity gradually shifting, not lessening, but changing in vector and intensity, creating a disorienting environment that would be navigable only to those evolved for such conditions. "Adaptive defense system," Tanaka observed, adjusting his scanner. "The gravity shifts every few meters in unpredictable patterns." Scholar moved with increasing confidence. "Test. Worthy approach Alpha progenitor only." After what felt like hours of grueling ascent, they reached a final threshold. An aperture that pulsed with energy fields that analyzed each being a tempting passage. Scholar stepped through without hesitation, its exoskeleton briefly illuminated by scanning energies. "Your turn," it said, gesturing to Maya. "Only you." Maya glanced at her team. Okafor nodded encouragement. "We'll monitor from here. Be careful." Stepping through the threshold, Maya felt a momentary sensation of weightlessness, followed by a gravitational pull that seized her from all directions simultaneously, not crushing her, but holding her suspended in perfect balance. Before her stretched a vast chamber unlike anything she had expected. Instead of the throne room or war center she had imagined, she found herself in what appeared to be a natural history museum. Holographic displays showed thousands of worlds, their ecosystems rendered in exquisite detail. At the center floated a Voidborn, unlike any she had encountered, ancient, its exoskeleton bearing the patina of extreme age, yet also delicate, with elongated sensory appendages and compound eyes that encompassed nearly half its head. "Alpha progenitor," Scholar announced, bowing its head in deference. The ancient being regarded Maya with eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When it spoke, the words came not as sound, but as vibrations that her exosuit translated into speech. "Human, child of Earth, bearer of the middle gravity." The Alpha progenitor circled her slowly. "Long have we watched your kind. Neither fragile like the light ones, nor bound by weight as we are. You stand between worlds." Maya maintained her composure despite her astonishment. "You've studied Earth. All worlds are studied, all life cataloged." The being gestured to the holographic displays. "This is the archive of worlds, the true purpose of what you call the Voidborn Empire. Your expansion has cost millions of lives. Maya countered. Entire civilizations destroyed. Not destroyed. Transformed. The Alpha progenitor's vibrations took on a somber tone. You see only what the Renders faction has done. They believe survival requires conquest. I have advocated patience, coexistence. We have been overruled. Understanding dawned on Maya. You're not their ruler. This is a civil conflict. The Voidborn evolved on one of the few high-gravity planets capable of supporting complex life. The ancient being explained. Our entire history has been defined by resource scarcity. When we discovered other worlds, the Render's ancestors saw only territory to claim. Others of us saw possibility for cooperation. Dr. Okafor's voice came through Maya's comm. Captain, we're detecting massive energy buildups in orbit. The Render's forces are preparing for a final assault against the Perseverance. The Alpha progenitor's sensory appendages twitched. The Render returns. Our time grows short. Maya made her decision. Dr. Okafor, transmit our findings on gravity manipulation technology. Show the Alpha progenitor how uninhabited worlds could be transformed to suit Voidborn physiology without threatening existing civilizations. As the data transferred, the holographic displays around them flickered to show simulations of barren worlds being transformed, their gravitational fields strengthened, atmospheres enriched, entire ecosystems engineered to support Voidborn colonies. This is possible, the Alpha progenitor asked, its vibrations quickening. Not just possible, we've already demonstrated the principles, Maya confirmed. What your people have been doing by force, we could achieve through cooperation. Uninhabited worlds transformed to your specifications, shared technology, mutual defense. The ancient being studied the simulations intently. The Render will not accept such terms easily. Generations of conflict have hardened positions. Then let us demonstrate a better path, Maya proposed. Begin with a ceasefire. Allow us to prove what cooperation can achieve. In orbit, the battle reached its climax. The Render's flagship targeted the Perseverance with a weapon capable of destroying small moons. In that moment of supreme crisis, Matriarch Scylla made her choice. The whispered shadow decloaked directly in the weapon's path, its advanced shields flaring as it absorbed the devastating blast meant for the human vessel. The shocking sacrifice created a momentary ceasefire that spread across all communication channels, reaching even the Hive Citadel. Maya seized the opportunity, working with the Alpha progenitor to draft preliminary terms for an unprecedented accord between the Voidborn and the Concord. 1 year later, Maya stood in the observation deck of Harmony I Station, a new facility constructed specifically to accommodate all species involved in the peace process. Unlike its predecessor, Harmony II featured variable gravity sections allowing species from across the spectrum to interact comfortably in neutral territory. She watched a group of human engineers working alongside former enemies, designing habitat modules for the first joint colony on an uninhabited world designated Concordia. The planet had been selected for its unique properties, a gravity gradient that ranged from 0.7 g at the equator to 1.6 g at the poles, allowing different species to settle in zones matching their physiological preferences. The Render, now called the Builder in recognition of its new role, approached Maya with its distinctive heavy tread. Since the accord, it had become an unlikely ally, channeling its faction's aggressive energy into the massive engineering projects required to transform barren worlds. The first clutch has emerged, it announced without preamble, its voice still harsh but no longer threatening. Maya smiled. The experimental variable gravity nurturing chambers were successful, beyond expectation. The massive Voidborn's compound eyes reflected the starlight streaming through the viewport. The young ones adapt to gravity changes with minimal stress. Their exoskeletons show unprecedented flexibility. Evolution in action, Maya noted, adapting to new conditions just as humans did on Earth. The Builder extended a limb toward the viewport, gesturing to the stars beyond. Our children, it said in its rumbling voice, "will know neither your worlds nor ours alone, but all worlds between. This is victory greater than any conquest." As Maya watched the continued construction of Harmony AI, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Earth's supreme edge hadn't just been physical strength, but the adaptability that its gravity had forced upon humanity's evolution. Born between the extremes of the galactic gravity spectrum, humans had become the natural bridge between worlds that had previously seemed irreconcilably different. Dr. Okafor joined her at the viewport, datapad in hand as always. "The latest reports from Earth," he said. "The Concorde's gravity manipulation technology is revolutionizing everything from medicine to space travel. Turns out our crushing gravity was preparing us for this role all along." Maya nodded, watching as a human child and a young Scythian attempted to teach a void-born juvenile a game involving variable gravity fields. "Not a disadvantage after all," she mused, "but our greatest gift to the stars." In the space beyond Harmony Aya, construction had begun on an even more ambitious project, a vast shipyard where vessels designed to accommodate all known species would eventually be built. These ships would carry the combined knowledge and strength of dozens of civilizations to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. And at their heart would be the legacy of Earth, a species forged under the steady pull of gravity, strong enough to stand firm, yet adaptable enough to reach for something beyond strength alone. The wisdom to build bridges where others saw only walls.